Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people truly believe that they can do what they want, when they want, because they're special. Guys, this episode is all about people getting back at entitled Karens, and one Karen learns the hard way not to steal someone's cat. Guys, I hope you enjoy the satisfying stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, subscribe so you don't miss these crazy stories. My wife and I once lived in an apartment complex in our first year and a half of marriage. Now, mail mix-ups were common, so it was a bi-weekly routine to take a very quick trip to the main office and drop off a mislabeled package and then head home. Jump a year into the future and we have a home and we're taking care of foster kids that have recently entered the system. We desperately want them to have a good Christmas since life's dealt them so many bad hands. Just once, I want them to experience a Christmas where they feel more valued than drugs and get more out of the holidays. So with that thought, my wife and I decide to spoil our foster kids. We order gifts off a website. We found the perfect gifts. They were on sale, so that allowed us to get more for them and everything was falling right into place. But then it happened. A day later, we checked our email, and to our horror, we realized the computer saved our old address. And even though we put in the right address, the computer autofilled the rest of the information. That means they sent the packages to the old apartment complex. We called the store. They wouldn't help us at all, so we called the apartment complex to try to get ahead of this before they were delivered. This was all going to go well, until the current resident of our old apartment completely overreacted to the news. Out of the 4 boxes that were delivered to that complex, he only returns 1, and he threatens, if this happens again, I'm going to destroy these gifts. It turns out he had all the packages and were keeping them, knowing full well that we lived fairly close, and that they were for foster kids. We called and contacted the complex multiple times, and they had the same sad news. Either the guy wouldn't return a call, or he would just be angry and hang up. So that's when I took a drive past my old apartment. I saw what car he drove, and then I saw that he obviously had some sort of family. I had one of 2 choices. Number 1, I thought of letting it go. I thought about the spirit of Christmas and how the new year was a mark of a new start. And then I thought of him bringing my stolen gifts to other people because this guy wouldn't buy gifts for other ones around him either. And this is when things turned dark in my mind. I thought he tried to take gifts away from my foster kids who have had their home taken from them. So why not take Christmas away from him? Why not take away his home? Whatever he's experienced in life to lead to this event, I want him to suffer even more for this injustice. In a right mindset, I talked to a cop friend of mine, and there wasn't much I could do without going to small claims courts and spending a good bit of money. And that's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. I parked on a hilltop overlooking the complex. Luckily, the apartment's close to the base of the hill, so I had a perfect spot to observe. After I waited for the guy to come home, I made note of his vehicle to confirm that that was indeed his car, and then went to the store. I then picked up several dozen eggs and a can of spray paint, and then went back home to await nightfall. I went back out around 2 a.m. I pre-mixed the eggs and kept all the shells. I then went to a more secluded spot away from the complex, where I knew I could park and find a route that didn't have any sort of security cameras. I snuck up, carrying a bowl of pre-beat eggs, the shells, and the spray paint can in my hoodie pocket. I carefully laid the ingredients down that would be used to concoct my revenge, and I was shaking. I pulled out the spray paint first, and I used it to write "Homewrecker" on the hood of his car. I then poured the eggs from the roof towards the back, as to not let the mixture ruin the message on the hood. Then I laid the eggshells around the car. Lastly, I placed a note on his car door that read, "Fertilize these eggs," in hopes that his wife would see it. After that, I made my way back carefully to my car and then drove off. Now, I don't know how all this had an effect, but I'm afraid to go back again and check without raising suspicion. So far, no one's reached out to me to ask about the incident. I made it out, but I will update if I find anything else out. Oh, and Merry Christmas. Update. So I went back because it was killing me. I wanted to drive by and take a picture for you guys, but the car's gone. The shells are still littered on the ground. There were also remains of a broken coffee mug at the base of his door. I'd like to imagine that he walked out, saw everything, and spiked it into the ground out of anger. Or maybe his wife saw it and she chucked it at his dumb head. I want to imagine that this destroyed his home, so he can get a taste of what a broken home feels like. There is a happy ending though. I told my family that the guy stole the presents and they're all chipping in to shower the kids with gifts, so they will not be without. Of course, I didn't tell them about the gifts or the plan of revenge on their behalf. but a gift I will have received this year is that some sense of justice has been fulfilled. The best gift is being able to give these kids a Merry Christmas and the look on their faces when they get these gifts. You know what, I honestly would have thought the police would have done something about this, guys. Like, clearly the guy admitted to having possession of OP's gift, so the cops saying there was nothing they could do was actually surprising to me. And the saddest part is, as OP said, is that the guy knew the presents were for foster children, like some people. And guys, I love that OP's response to the guy committing a crime is to also commit a crime to get back at him. Okay, so this happened many years ago. My older sister had this awful, crazy neighbor Karen who had a serious obsession for her Siamese cat. Karen was a black-haired, plump, 40-something divorced woman who annoyed everyone in the neighborhood. The woman had zero understanding of boundaries, and she often liked to come to people's homes, just barge in and snoop around, opening drawers, cabinets, and touching all their stuff. Once, she even went into someone's fridge and she grabbed herself a ginger ale, and then got mad when the homeowner took it back. If you left your door, front or back, unlocked more than 10 minutes, chances were she would come right in. The woman stole yard decorations from other people's yards, and she had been caught on more than one occasion pocketing something she'd snag off a mantle or table of a house she invaded. And the thing is, she would always throw a tantrum when she got busted. The cops had been called on her many times, but she was good at being pathetic, so most people didn't press charges. Unfortunately, this made her bolder. Basically, she was the entitled bitch of the neighborhood. My sister, being right beside her, was unfortunately one of her favorite victims. She would come over without calling, barging her way in, and basically demanding to see my sister's cat, telling my sister how beautiful he was and how much she wanted a cat just like him. My sister, being rather non-confrontational, would let her see the cat, who did not like the woman, and then make her leave. And here's something else. Karen never wanted to leave, and she had to be basically pushed out the door. Oh, and she despised me because I wouldn't let her in when I answered the door. Nor would I tolerate her BS in any way, if she got past my sister. Karen was so obsessed with the cat that she offered to buy him many times, but my sister loved the cat. He was the runt of the litter, and he was rejected by his mom. My sister had taken him, bottle-fed him, mothered him, and saved his life. So he wasn't just a pet, he was her child. So my sister, of course, always said no, and this royally pissed off Karen. One day, my sister's cat got out. He wasn't an outdoor cat, so my sister and I immediately start looking for him. We were checking the bushes, behind the flower pots, when we heard a very distinctive yowl, one of pure rage, followed by a very human shriek of pain, coming from Karen's house. Suddenly, the doggy door in Karen's back door slams open, and out runs my sister's cat, his tail and one rear paw covered in what smelled like hair bleach. My sister's cat dashed right past us and into my sister's house. The next thing you know, Karen's back door slams open and out she comes, cursing up a storm. There was claw marks all over her left cheek, and one of her hands had a deep bite wound that completely saturated the latex glove she was wearing, with blood running down her hand and arm. It turned out, when the cat got out of my sister's house, Karen had grabbed him, then took him inside and tried to use hair bleach to bleach the brown out of his tail and paws, in order to change his appearance so she could keep him. But unfortunately for Karen, she didn't know anything about Siamese cats and how violent they can be. They were temple guardians for a reason. The moment Karen put the bleach on the cat's tail, he went absolutely berserk, letting out that yowl of rage we'd heard, then clawing up Karen's face and sinking his fangs deep inside her hand. Karen then pushed herself between the bushes that my sister uses to separate the property line, and she begins yelling at us. No, not yelling, she was shrieking at us. She was shrieking that my sister's cat had somehow wandered into her kitchen while she was cooking dinner, and when she tried to pick him up, he attacked her for no reason, and that she was calling the police. Clearly, this was total BS. Karen then proceeds to call my sister the N-word several times as she's half black. She then screamed that my sister was stupid for keeping such a dangerous animal, and that my sister would be paying all her medical bills or she would get lawyers involved. She then got right into my sister's face, pushes my sister hard in the chest, saying that she's calling animal control, and she intends to have that thing put down. She then opened her mouth to say some more, but my sister, after hearing that last statement and without one word of warning, just decks Karen straight in the face. Karen lands on her butt in the grass, now clutching her left eye. My sister then loudly suggested that Karen can go F herself, and then ran inside to find her poor cat. Well, I called the cops. The whole thing, from start to end, only lasted 5 minutes. My sister found him hiding in the laundry room and quickly cleaned him off in the sink. Meanwhile, Karen's still on her ass in our backyard, howling like she'd been stabbed until the cops arrived. I told them what happened, and they later talked to my sister after she tended to her cat, who gave them the same story I did. And she even admitted to hitting Karen, in self-defense of course. Karen, of course, told them something entirely different. Her story was that she was about to bleach her hair when my sister's cat came in and attacked her out of nowhere. She also said that both my sister and I attacked her, and that I apparently kicked her in the stomach after my sister punched her. The whole time, she was crying for help, but nobody came. The cops found no evidence of bruising, and the scratches on her face kind of masked her swelling eye. I also think the cops turned a blind eye, considering the circumstances. But since there was a clear blood trail leading to Karen's open back door, the cops felt they had probable cause to go in. And I think if Karen had been paying more attention instead of crying crocodile tears, she would have refused them entry. The blood trail led to a sink in the first floor bathroom. There, the police found blood, cat fur, a bleach applicator and the box it came in, and the cat's collar, which was in the garbage. Karen kept trying to play the victim, but the cops did not buy it. She got arrested, and my sister pressed charges for theft and assault. The police also found a bunch of prescription drug bottles that did not belong to her. It turns out she'd also been stealing neighbors' painkillers when she visited them. And since she was a renter, the property owner gave her the boot for breach of contract. Karen went to jail, and she had to pay for the cat's vet bill. He was okay, but a bit traumatized, and he had a yellow patch on his butt, paw, and tail for several months. Karen's hand got infected from the cat bite, and it turned out it also caused tendon and nerve damage as well. So the moral of the story is stay out of people's houses and don't try to steal or mess with people's cats, especially a cat named Lucifer. Holy guys, all I can say is Karen totally deserved everything she got, and good kitty for fighting back when that nasty Karen tried to kidnap him. Like, what a wild story, right? Like, and guys, to this day, after reading so many entitled people stories, I'm still shocked at the audacity of some people. Like, how dare you have the nerve to steal someone's cat, and when it goes completely sideways, attack the owner, demand your medical bills paid when the cat attacks you, and even threaten cops and a lawsuit. Like, any person with a brain would have been like, maybe we should let this one go and take the loss. But also, a person with a brain would not steal someone's pet to begin with and try to bleach it a different color. Like, wow. Like, how she thought that was gonna work, I don't know. Silly, silly Karens, right? This happened in the summer of 1974, when I was 4 years old. When I was a kid, we had this next door neighbor who we'll call Karen, and she was a total mega bitch. She was a 40-something woman who liked high heels, big jewelry, lots of makeup, and she wore long, flowy dresses in colors that did not flatter her. She also had a big perm. Remember, it's the 70s. And she was known in the neighborhood for being super entitled. Her favorite thing to do was to go onto neighbors' landings, either early in the morning or late at night, and steal decorations and potted plants, which she would then bring back to her garden. The woman even once dug up someone else's tree out of their front yard when they were gone on vacation, because according to the neighbor, she felt it would look way better in her garden. Yeah, she's a total bitch. For the most part, she's left my family alone because my family has a take-no-crap reputation in the neighborhood, and she knew it. She would only glare at me and my siblings when we played outside because she hated kids. Sadly, that did not last. One day, one of my sisters got badly sliced by a long nail when she went to pick flowers off the flower vine on the fence, which is important later. It turns out Karen had hammered dozens of long nails into our fence so she could hang potted plants on her side that she had most likely stolen. The leaves on the vine had hidden them until my sister got sliced by an inch-long nail that was sticking out of our side of the fence. My mom was pissed, so she went out and she actually spent the rest of the day hammering each and every nail back out through the fence, back into Karen's garden, causing all her pots to fall and break. And this is probably why she did what she did. About a month later, my mom goes into our kitchen and she sees a man in our backyard. She goes out and asks, "What are you doing?" The guy tells her that he was a gardener and he had been hired to get rid of the vine on our fence. My mom asked him who hired him to do this because we surely didn't. The guy said, "The owner of the fence," and gestured to Karen's house. My mom then told him calmly, since none of this was his fault, that it wasn't Karen's fence, and that my mom was the owner of this property. The poor guy was horrified. However, the damage was done. The guy had cut into the roots, and now our vine was dead. After the poor guy left, we later found out that Karen refused any sort of payment to him and she just ghosted him. Mom went to Karen's house and confronted her. The thing is, Karen didn't even deny it. She just laughed in my mom's face and said, "I did it, so what? It's not like you can do anything about it," and then sauntered back inside her house. And at that moment, she had just messed with the wrong family. A few days later, Karen went on a 2-week vacation with her husband to Cabo, and that's when my mom thought it was time to get her back. The day she left, my older siblings, along with a family friend, decided that Karen's back garden needed improvements. So they climbed the fence, went into her garden, dug up all the pretty flowers and small trees, and carted them out, and replaced them with high pollen weeds, quick-growing ivy, and lots of poison oak and poison ivy that they had dug up from a nearby forest. My family then excitedly waited. When Karen got back and saw her new and improved garden, she threw the biggest, most epic tantrum and meltdown that we'd ever seen. It was spectacular. A whole class of sugared up, pissed off preschoolers could not have thrown a bigger tantrum. From the top of the fence, we all watched as the woman screamed and ranted. She pulled her hair. She kicked the weeds and threw anything she could get her hands on. All the while, she was cussing and screeching like she was getting a chili powder enema. She then spots all of us watching her and she yelled and cursed at all of us, coming to the conclusion that we had done this to her precious garden. By this time, all the surrounding neighbors were also watching, but she of course zeroes in on us. She storms over to our house and she bangs on our door until my mom opens the door. Karen then demands that my family not only pull out all those ugly plants and to of course pay for new ones, but to do it and do it right now. My mom just looks at her, yawns, and tells her that she had zero proof that it was her kids who had done it. My mom then reminded her that she had stolen dozens of plants from the neighbors, had been caught blatantly stealing from their front gardens, yet she was surprised that someone had retaliated. My mom just laughed, told her to F off, and went back inside. She ranted at us through the door for about an hour until her voice gave out, and then stomped back to her house. She avoided us from then on and would only give a death glare to my mom whenever she saw her. My mom would just smile, give her the finger, and go about her business. We donated most of the dug up plants to the neighbors that she'd stolen from, and returned the stolen ornaments and decorations to their rightful owners. Karen never did get rid of all the weeds and didn't realize it was poison oak until she was pulling them barehanded. She and her husband got horrible rashes over a third of their bodies, and I was told in some very unfortunate places. So yeah, the post ends right there, guys, but holy. I only wish OP's mom said right back to her, "I did it, so what? It's not like you can do anything about it." But that would be admitting to what they did. But yeah, like OP's mom said to her, guys, like if she can go onto other people's properties and steal things and damage their property, why can't they retaliate? And don't be surprised when they do. And you know what they say, guys, if you're an a-hole neighbor, it's best you never leave town. This one is fairly short. So my cousin, who's super entitled, asked me to do some lawn work and to dog and house sit for her when she was going on vacation for a friend's wedding. I agreed, under the condition that I would be paid $15 per hour as she had a large garden with many flower beds. So for 1 week, I tend to her flowers and other yard things, such as picking up weeds, watering the lawn, mowing the lawn, and picking up dog crap. Well, she comes back and she refuses to pay me, telling me to just leave her house, and next time, don't trust anybody. So I decide to get back at her. One weekend, she goes up to the mountains for a bit because it's fun and why not? So still having her key, I go into her house. I know that trash day is the next day, so I go to the dumpster and take out 2 or 3 bags of trash and dump them all around the outside of her house. Finally, I go to a local hardware store and I get some weed killer, the one that also kills other plants, as I found out the hard way, and I sprayed that all over her garden, on the flower beds, the grass, the vegetable garden for 2 whole days. When she comes back, her entire house is wrecked. The trash had attracted rodents and her whole garden is dead. She had to pay for cleanup and had to replant all her vegetation and get new grass for both yards. She paid thousands of dollars for something that should have costed her $210. The moral of the story is pay someone for doing work for you, please. I totally agree. And so many times I've seen videos or read stories where people just refuse to pay contractors after they finish the work. And a lot of the times, people do what OP does and they get malicious. Now, I'm not saying what OP did is right because that was pretty extreme, costing the cousin thousands of dollars. But cousin doing that to them was such an a-hole move, and I do understand why they did what they did. Like when you're expecting to get paid and someone turns around and says, "I didn't say I was gonna pay you, get out of my house." You know, again, I can understand why OP did what they did. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's on our /I don't work here lady, where a Karen demands OP serve her because he's white. And the story is wild, guys. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.